Hello, my charmed ones, and welcome back to my channel for another video. If this is your first time with me, I would like to say welcome. My name is Alexis, but I'm also known as MissTrenchcoat all across the internet. I'm an online entrepreneur who helps ambitious women plan for a balanced and successful life and business using my master plan and CEO strategy systems. And that is something we are going to be talking about today. This video is actually not a normal video. As you may be able to tell, it's going to be a little bit longer because this is actually going to be a free training on setting up your planner for the new year. I'm calling this the ultimate guide to a functional planner setup, and that's what we're going to dig into today. So if you are someone who wants to set up your planner according to the functional planning methodology so that you can remain organized, productive, and have a successful year, today's training is going to be that guide for you for what you need to have inside of your planner in order for you to maximize your productivity in the new year. So before we jump in, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. Let me know if that's something that speaks to you. If you are someone who is an ambitious woman, right, who is trying to use their planner functionally to get more done, to achieve their goals, to have more success, really to just balance their life in a way that makes sense for them and helps them reach their maximum potential, I want to know about it. So if you are a like-minded woman to me, please go ahead and let me know down in the comments. And feel free to introduce yourself if you're someone who's new to me or maybe doesn't leave comments a lot. I love to hear from the members of my community on, what they're thinking, feeling, and what's brought them to my channel today. So back to the topic of today's training. So the first thing that I want to explain is that this training has been organized to provide an in-depth response to the 4 biggest questions that I often receive when it comes to setting up your planner. So those 4 questions are: question number 1 is, how many planners should I use? So if you're someone who is asking yourself that question, is, looking at their system for the new year and trying to figure out how many planners is the optimum number of planners to use to get it all done in the new year, let me know, leave it in the comments, say Q1 in the comments. That way I know that you are someone who is here to get the answer to Q1. Question number 2 is, what style of planner should I choose, right? So there are a lot of different styles of planners out there. I know it becomes overwhelming. So if this is a question that's been on your mind for deciding what your planner setup is going to be next year, leave me Q2 in the comments. Question number 3 is, which inserts should I choose to make my planner setup functional? So this is a big one. This is actually the question we're probably going to be spending the most time on. And if that is a question that you have on your mind, drop me a Q3 in the comments. Question number 4 is, how should I organize my planner tabs and sections? Another really big question a lot of people ask me over and over again is how to actually organize the sections of your planner. There's lots of things inside your planner. How do you organize it? What should you call your dividers so that it makes sense? We're going to dig into that today in this training. So drop me a Q4 in the comments if that is a question that you have as well. So hopefully you're here today and you're getting at least one big question that you have about setting up your planner functionally for the new year answered. But I know that there's going to be many other questions that I'm going to probably just answer incidentally as we go through this training. So I'm hoping that I'm able to answer as many questions as possible for you. And if at any point you have a question and you feel like I haven't touched on it, or I've kind of maybe glazed over a point you'd like to talk about, please leave me the question as a comment down below, and I would be glad to get back to you, in the comment section. So, like I said, 4 questions that we're answering today. We're going to take them one at a time, and I'm going to make sure that I break this training video out into sections for the people who are watching this on YouTube. Those timestamps, that's what I'm trying to talk about. I will put timestamps on this video so that you can easily navigate to the question and the answer that you are looking for. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. So question number 1 is, how many planners should I use? Now, the short answer to this question is 1 planner. All you need is one planner. I like to say one life, one planner. That's simple. It's easy to remember, right? I know that you see many people on YouTube and on social media who are using a whole stack of planners. And something that I'd like to remind you about what you see online is that very often these individuals are influencers, meaning that they are either sent multiple planners from different companies for the purpose of reviewing them, or they're paid to actually talk about and show a specific planner, or they purchase lots of planners to act as content for their platform so that they can grow their channel or their Instagram or whatnot, right? But this is not an accurate representation of reality. Realistically, it's very hard to make a planner system work with numerous different planners because it means that information is going to be spread out across many different places instead of it being centralized into one planner. And with information in different places, right, it becomes hard to really sync that information to make the most strategic plan possible. Let me tell you, I have tried so hard in the past to make multiple planners work for me, but it just isn't realistic if you are like a normal person who's just trying to be productive in their day-to-day life. And what I mean by normal is not a planner influencer, right? Not someone whose job it is to use all the planners and show all the planners and ultimately sell you all of the planners, right? So if you are just an average person who's not a planner influencer, right, it's not realistic for you to have more than one planner. It may work for influencers whose jobs are to show you many planners, but it doesn't work for real life when you want to get things done, because the basic premise of using a planner is that your planner is a system of organization for your time and task management. And the essential measure for any organization system is simplicity. The simpler your system is, the more reliable it is, and the more that you're likely to use it, and the more likely it is to work for you. So that doesn't mean that you're not going to have any problems, right, using a single planner system, but it means that more planners in your system does not equal more organization or more productivity. Now, although I am a major proponent of using just one planner, I do acknowledge that there are a few situations where using more than one planner is acceptable and sometimes even preferable. So the first situation is if you work at a job where work information actually needs to be kept separate from personal information for legal or confidentiality reasons, right? So if you work somewhere that keeps work and personal life separate, or you have a career where it's possible that any notes or planning tools that you have for your job could be subpoenaed by a court for legal purposes, then yes, absolutely keep a personal and work planner separate, right? That's a situation where you can have two planners and you likely already know that that is a situation that you're in for your work. Another situation where you can have separate planners is if you work at a job where your work stays at work and it never comes home with you, right? In that case, I do think that it's okay to have a planner that's just for work and it actually stays at work. And then you can have a second planner that takes care of the rest of your life. That's absolutely fine. But if you have work that always stays at work, which means when you check in at work, you are only working on work things and it doesn't come home with you, then that is a clear division of those responsibilities. And that's a situation where it is okay to have more than one planner. The final situation where you can have more than one planner is if you are using a planner for an alternate purpose, right? Or if you're using a planner binder, the actual casing, the actual binder, to house additional information for reference. So if you have a planner that you use for memory keeping or for journaling or for scrapbooking, some use where it's not actually acting as a planner, but as a means to organize and track different information, then by all means, you can use as many planners as you like. So when I say it's important to have one planner, I'm talking about a planner in the traditional sense of a planner being a tool where you capture information, organize that information strategically, and use that information to take action. So planning is the act of taking all the information and tasks, right, that you've got that are in your life for all the different priorities and things you work on, and organizing it into a strategic action plan. So any other use of a planner or a binder is not covered with this one planner rule. So that is how many planners you should be using. Answer one, unless you are in a specific situation where you have to keep things separate for legal and work purposes, or a situation where you keep your work at work and it never comes home with you, and that is a situation where it's okay to have more than one planner. But outside of that, right, you have only one life that you're living, right? And you have all of these different tasks that you need to manage. And in order to make the most strategic and efficient plan possible, all of those tasks need to be organized in one place so that you can create like one list of things you're doing for each day and like one list for a schedule that you're working on each day, if that's the way that you like to plan. Having multiple planners and breaking things out in multiple places just makes it hard for you to sync and see a bigger picture, which means you're going to end up missing things. Ultimately is what happens when people keep information for planning in different places. Okay, so question number 2 is, which style of planner should I choose? So you've likely noticed that here in our planner community, there are many different types and sizes of planners that are available for use. And I know that it can become incredibly confusing when you have to choose amongst all the styles and sizes and brands that are available. So I want to simplify this process for you now in this training. There are essentially 4 styles of planner bindings, which is the first thing that you need to consider when you're choosing your planner. The binding of your planner is that part of the planner at the spine that actually is holding together all of the inserts. So that's what we're talking about here. So the 4 different styles of planner bindings are rings, discs, spiral, and book-bound planners. So ring planners have a spine of rings that open and close, and they hold the pages of the planner together. Disc planners have a spine of these mushroom edge discs that hold onto the paper pages of your planner. Spiral bound planners have a spile or coil binding that holds the pages of the planner together. And a book binding is when the spine of pages is actually either glued or sewn together. So everything is kept together in one book. The first 2 styles, rings and discs, give you the ability to easily add, remove, and reorder pages of your planner to customize it to your liking. And the latter 2, spiral and book-bound planners, are fixed systems, right? They're fixed in the number and the order of the pages. So they are, set systems that you really cannot change or customize. And yes, there are some strategies out there where you can like add to or change, the pages of a fixed or, bound system that's spiral or book bound. But for the most part, those systems are what they are, and there's very little customization that you can do with them. Now, I always prefer to use customizable binders like ring bound, or my personal favorite, which is disc bound, because there are not many examples of complete functional planner systems that are available out there in spiral or book bindings. And I think this ends up being the reason why so many people who do use a fixed binding planner like a spiral or a book bound planner actually need to use multiple planners because they can't customize what they have, right? So they have to supplement their system with more planners. However, if you use rings or discs for your planner, you can create your own perfect functional planning system that is organized the way your brain works and visualizes information. So those are the 4 binding style options for your planner. Next, I want to discuss size options. Again, there are multiple different sizes of planners that are available depending on the binding that you're looking for, which can really complicate planner choices for you. However, to keep things as simple as possible, I'm going to discuss the 3 universal sizes that you see most often and what I consider are the most functional sizes. The first size is full size, which would be like a full sheet of paper, right? So if you're in the US, that would be US letter, which is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. And if you're in Europe or abroad, elsewhere in the world, that would be A4 paper, which is very close in size to full letter, but it's just a little bit off, like centimeters or millimeters off. This size is generally the largest size of planner because this is the largest commonly used paper size, right? So again, they're not exactly the same, US letter and A4, right? But they are pretty close. And generally speaking, if you're using a full size planner, the binders themselves are going to be able to accommodate the other size paper, right? So if you have an A4 planner, you're going to be able to fit US letter in there and vice versa. The second size of planner is half size, which would be half of a sheet of standard paper, right? So in the US, that is going to be half letter, which means that dimensions of that are 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And abroad, that's called A5 paper, which again is half of an A4 sheet of paper. And again, half letter and A5 are not the exact same dimensions, but they are pretty close to each other. And again, if you have an A5 binder, you're going to be able to use half letter inserts, right? And vice versa. They're very close, like literally just like millimeters in difference, right, in their dimensions. The third planner size is personal size, which is roughly 3.7 inches by 6.7 inches. And that is also very close to the size A6, which equates to 4 inches by 6 inches. So again, not exactly the same, but roughly the same size dimensions of paper. And I want you to think about your planner in these three sizes because they give you a pretty good overall idea of the planner size options that are available out there, either full size, half size, or personal size. And yes, there are some other sizes that are even smaller than personal. But again, that is really starting to split hairs and getting into sizes that I don't necessarily see as being functional for the vast majority of people who are trying to utilize the functional planning methodology. So to choose between these three sizes, this is what I recommend you do. I actually want you to go ahead and get some pieces of paper that are sized for these dimensions. And I want you to actually compare what the pieces of paper look like in front of you. So go ahead and get a full sheet of printer paper, right? And take another piece and fold it in half and take a look at what half looks like. And then maybe cut or fold a third piece and look at what the personal size or A6 size of 4 by 6 inches looks like. So which paper size do you think makes the most sense for the amount of information you generally need to write down in the day for you to actually stay on track, and the size of your handwriting as well? That's another important factor, because if you have very large handwriting, right, that might mean that a personal size may not work for you if you have many tasks that you need to write down throughout the day. You can also consider your portability needs to determine the best planner size for you. Although, again, this can sometimes be a topic that really starts feeling like people are getting a little bit too picky or splitting hairs, because the truth of the matter is that even the largest planner size, that like a full sheet planner, right, is portable, right? It might not fit into every one of your purses that you use. You may need to carry like a tote bag or a briefcase in order to accommodate that size of a planner. But at the end of the day, it is portable. All of the planner sizes are portable. So, I don't want you to get too wrapped up on, oh, wow, this, personal is the only size that's really portable, because that's not true, right? A half letter planner is also incredibly portable, right? An A4 planner is also something that is designed that you can carry it around with you or throw it in a bag. You just may need to, change the bag that you're using if you want to be carrying it around. And a really great example for you is that in my last 9-to-5 job, I actually had to, as part of my job, visit different customers. So I was going in and out of customer meetings all day long. And I actually used a full-size planner at that time, right? Because that was the size that I needed for all the things I needed to write down and keep track of. And guess what? It was functional for me to be able to carry that around. It was still portable because I carried, a briefcase or a tote bag, right? So I was able to throw my planner in there with like my laptop, and so it worked. So my point here is I want you to take a look and see which paper size seems like a necessity to you, right? Based on what your needs are. Consider portability, but don't get obsessed with portability because all of the planner sizes are portable, right? And that is going to help you to really get in alignment with which planner size you would like to choose. Now, the final factor to consider when it comes to the style of planner that you want to use is the closure. And there are 4 popular closures that you want to be aware of. The first is a zip closure, meaning that the planner binder actually zips up, right, around the planner and everything is contained inside. So you can get zip style planners for rings, discs, and even bound styles, right? That could fit in like a spiral or a book bound inside of the zip compartment, right? And this closure is actually what I consider to be the most secure, especially if you're someone who's taking your planner around, right? Because your planner is actually zipped up inside. It's actually protected. So if something spills or, if there's other things in your bag, it's not going to damage what's inside of the planner. And it's very unlikely that anything inside the planner, once it's zipped up, is going to get out of the planner, right? So you don't have to worry about things like falling out of your planner while it's zipped up. Now, something you do need to keep in mind when it comes to zip planners is that because you've got this zip, you really need to make sure you're not overstuffing the planner, right? You're really not like filling the planner up to its brim, because you need to be able to still be able to zip that planner up, or it defeats the purpose of having the zip planner, right? So that is one drawback to having a zip planner. Okay. The second closure style is a button closure, right? Which could be like a snap, or I even consider those like magnetic straps that kind of just cover, hold the 2 covers together. I consider that like a button closure as well, even though it's a magnetic button technically. This is another classic planner style, and it is very secure because, again, the front and back covers of your binder are being held together, and generally speaking, you're not going to get a lot of things falling out of that, but you do still see the edge of the paper, which, depending on what your personal style is, you may like being able to see your planner paper inside, and any maybe little accessories or things that you've got like dangling off the planner. Or you might be someone who's concerned that the edges of your paper could get damaged because it is partially exposed, right? So that's something you want to think about. And similar to the zip bound example, a button closure planner, you do need to be aware of how much you're stuffing that planner, because you put too many things inside of the planner, then the button won't snap, the magnet won't hold, etc. And then the planner is flying open, which is not a desirable situation. The third option for your closure is an elastic strap. So very similar to the button strap idea, except what you've got is a strap that actually can accommodate more movement, right? And for this reason, it has all the same pros as the button closure, but also that idea of being able to stuff the planner and there being limits with a button closure is something that's a little bit more mitigated with an elastic strap closure, right? The elastic strap will hold the front and back covers together and hold things tightly together, and you have a little bit more give because the strap is elastic, right? So that's another planner style closure to consider. And then the fourth and final closure style is no closure, right? Meaning that there's nothing that holds the front and back covers of the binder shut, making it the least secure option, but it's still an option that some people, including myself, enjoy, right? I personally love using a binder cover that really doesn't have a closure, right? And I've been using one of those for several years, and it works fine for me, partially because I'm very careful with my planner, and partially because I don't travel a lot with the planner. And when I do, I tend to put it into like a pouch to keep it safe so that it does stay secure. Right? So those are the 4 closure styles for you to consider. So I would say that those are all of the major factors that you want to consider in the style of your planner, right? When you're considering what you want to use for the new year. And I want to make it very clear that these factors are all superficial when it comes to your planner, right? The style binder you choose, the size you choose, the closure, even the color of the planner or the material that it's made of, which we didn't even discuss because we'd be here till next week discussing all of the options that you have, right? All of those elements are very superficial, and it doesn't actually impact the system of functional planning inserts that may be inside and are really the important part of your planner, right? Are the actual inserts inside, because that is what is going to keep you organized and productive and focused, right? So all of those elements, superficial. It's really, you know what they say, don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge a planner by its cover. It's what's inside that really matters, right? So I say this because it is a very real side effect of being inside of this planner community, being a member of our planner community, that we get this thing that I like to call shiny object syndrome, which is that we will see other people using other planning systems that are a different size or a different binder style or a different closure style than what we're using. And we see those people using it and we think, oh, wow, maybe that's what I should use instead, right? And so what can end up happening is we start like hopping from planner to planner to planner, right? Trying to find this sense of peace, right? This sense of, oh, well, I found the right system for me. But the actual physicalities of that planner on the outside, right? It's just the way the planner works, right? So it's not going to affect whether or not you're using your planner productively. It's not going to affect whether the inserts inside have created a functional system that you can rely on, right? To capture and organize and act on information, right? So I just want you to be aware of that, right? Because it's very easy to see what other people are using and think it's because, oh, if only I'd be more productive. If only my planner were that planner. She's got a really pretty pink planner. Or, oh, wow, I like that zip planner instead of my button closure. I think that's what I should be using. Or, oh, you know why I can't use my planner? I'm not using the right size. I want to try that personal size instead. That's all superficial. And I want to make sure we drive this home, right? Because it's very easy to get caught up in that shiny object syndrome. And it can really put you in this rat race of trying to chase some sort of like perfect planner that doesn't really exist, right? So I do think, that it is important for you to find a planner style that reflects your personal style, something that you do want to use, right? Because if you have a planner that you think is beautiful, you are more likely to want to use it and you're going to see it as an accessory to your life and want to, take it with you more often, right? And that means you're going to be capturing more information and perhaps using it to plan more often. But don't get too caught up in the superficial aspects, or else you're going to be spending a lot of money chasing some imaginary unicorn that doesn't necessarily exist. Okay. So that was the second question answered, right? So which style planner should you be choosing? Now let's move on to question number 3, which are which inserts should I choose to make my planner setup functional? Now, this is actually the section of this guide that is going to have the most significant impact on your productivity and to creating that functional planning system and setup inside of your planner. So in order to determine the inserts that you need to use in your planner setup, I first need to explain to you the factors that make a planner system functional to begin with. Now, I just want to take a moment right here to bring up my book, The Functional Planning Handbook. I literally wrote the book on functional planning and coined the phrase many, many years ago in the planning community. And so I'm going to give you in this training today a little overview of what makes a planner functional. But if you have more questions and want to go in depth in the functional planning philosophy, this book is going to have all of the answers for you, right? It's a cute little handbook. It's the perfect little companion to your planner. It's available on Amazon, right? So you can get it delivered to you like very quick with Amazon Prime. I will leave a link down in the description where you can pick it up. Again, we're going to touch on some topics from this book today, but if you want to go in depth, this is the book for you to read. Okay, so the functional planning methodology, what actually makes a planning system functional? There are 3 things that your planner needs to be able to do for you in order for me to be considering it a functional planning system, right? And I call these 3 aspects the 3 phases of functional planning. So the first phase is capturing information, right? So your planner needs to be a place where you get ideas out of your head and onto paper so that you can then organize and act on all of those ideas strategically. The second phase is defining strategic objectives. So, taking the raw information that you captured in phase one and identifying what objectives and outcomes you are working on achieving so that you can create a strategic plan of action, right, that helps you go after what those outcomes are. And then the third and final phase of the functional planning process, right, is tracking and allocating your work, right? So taking that strategic plan of action and then mapping those tasks into your calendar and agenda inserts of your planner so that you're managing your tasks and your time as efficiently as possible to get more done. Now, a little definition I want to give you, because you may hear me use these terms, is when I say calendar inserts, I'm generally talking about a monthly calendar, right? So a month on 1 or 2 pages. And when I talk about agenda inserts, I'm talking about the inserts that you might use on a weekly or daily basis. Anywhere where you're going to be allocating, this is what I'm working on today, I consider that your agenda, right? And then the calendar is the monthly view of how you're seeing and organizing information. So I just want to make that clear because I do use those terms specifically in those ways generally. So your planner, in order to be functional, right, needs to have inserts inside of it that will address each of those 3 phases of the functional planning process. And I'm going to share some ideas with you in this training, right, for the types of inserts that you may want to consider that kind of fulfill each of those phases. However, something you're going to notice very quickly in this discussion is that there are nearly no bound planners that include space for all 3 of these pieces in one planner, right? The only exception that I've ever seen out there is my own bound version of the master planner that you can get on Amazon, which is a planner that I designed intentionally to cover those 3 aspects of the functional planning, right? So that's why I'm such a major believer in using a customizable planner system, because the vast majority of planners do not include everything that you need to functionally plan your life, which is why so many people, I think, end up with multiple planners and information spread out across all different books. Because if you don't set up your planner with all of the elements of, functional planning, all 3 phases in consideration, right? You are going to need multiple planners to just get by and to just do the basics of planning properly, right? Or you're not using those, and therefore your plans are not as strategic and action oriented as I believe they should be if you're interested in achieving outcomes and success, which you already told me at the beginning of this training you were interested in, right? So that is why I do think so many people use multiple planners, or if you're using one planner that doesn't have everything it needs, you may feel like, wow, this planner really isn't helping me with very much, right? So let me know if that sounds like a situation you are in right now, because you're absolutely in the right place to get this kind of all corrected, okay? So let's go ahead right now and start with phase 1, the capture information phase. And what I'm going to do is actually give you a bird's eye view of some planner inserts, just so I can give you some ideas for what you may want to use, right, to set your planner up functionally that, fulfills this element of the phases of functional planning. Okay, so as a reminder, phase number 1 is that capture phase. And it's all about getting all of your big thoughts, plans, dreams, and ideas out of your head and onto paper. So what inserts could you be using in your planner to make it functional for this phase? The first would be brain dump inserts, right? So these inserts that I'm going to be showing you right now are all from my 2023 master planner. And I will leave a link down below where you can purchase that planner if you're interested. But I'm just using these as examples of the types of inserts that fulfill each of these areas of the functional planning process. So brain dumping is when you actually write down all of the things that you're holding on to in your head, all the thoughts, all the ideas, all the plans. Like, instead of storing them in your brain to try to remember to do them, you actually write everything down, right? And this becomes a basis for how you can organize information, because you've put all of the information down on paper. And then on the second half of this spread, this is what we call a Eisenhower matrix. It's a prioritization matrix that helps you identify, what you need to be doing or how you should be taking action on the tasks and ideas that you already brain dumped on your list. So What you have here are columns for important and not important, and then rows for urgent and not urgent. So what you're supposed to do is take each of the items that you have brain dumped and apply them to this matrix. So if a task is important and urgent, right, you could write it in here, right? And this means that anything in this box is something that needs to be added to your to-do list, probably for today. It's something that should be like a next action item that should be highly prioritized. If something is not important, but it's urgent, right? We would say that this is something that you may want to consider delegating to someone else who does find the information to be, or the action to be, important to them. Or this is a situation where we may need to get clever on creating some sort of systems, right, that will kind of manage these tasks for us so that it's not interfering with our most important work, which is always what we want to have our focus on. If anything goes here in this important and not urgent box, that means that it's something that you may want to schedule in later, right? So it's not something that needs to go on the to-do list for today, but it is something that's important. It may have a timeline that's a little bit further out. And so you'll schedule when you're going to be working on that in the appropriate place in your planner. And then if a task is not important and not urgent, it's very easy for us to say we can just delete these things if you want to, or they could be things that you're going to put on a someday maybe list, right? Just for future reference, right? So this is how you do a brain dump. Get all the ideas out of your head and onto paper and organize them so that you know what action needs to be taken next on that task. Another aspect or insert, I should say, that comes from the capture phase is the idea of doing a brainstorm. And this is a set of brainstorming inserts. So here on the right side, what we have is kind of like a mind map with different boxes. So brainstorming is different than brain dumping, right? Because brainstorming is when we're trying to come up with ideas or solve a problem or answer a question, right, creatively. Whereas brain dump is just anything that you're thinking about or trying to remember can be written down. Brainstorming, here you have an area for you to actually list out like what the issue is, the problem, or the topic that you're trying to mind map on. And then you've got all these little boxes where you can organize and categorize information really to help you generate some really great ideas. So once you've done the mind map portion, you can then take all of the information here and kind of start creating a strategic objective with it by defining the tasks that maybe you populated and came up with on the brainstorm, and then maybe some notes about process or other resources or things you're going to need. This sort of a page becomes like a preliminary for objective setting, which is phase 2, right? But it's helping you to generate ideas and information so that you know what you want to be doing in order to achieve an objective. Another insert that works really well for a capture phase is an inbox, right? And so an inbox is something that you will use in order to keep track of new tasks and things that come into you and are assigned to you throughout the day. You could use a brain dump for this activity, but very often as you're just kind of like going through your workday and you don't want to interrupt the plans you've already made, using an inbox is sometimes a good solution to that. And you'll see in this example of an inbox, it is broken out to look like the Eisenhower matrix, right? And we've got the 4 boxes here: do now, schedule for later, delegate, and delete or defer, right? So as new items come in, you can decide, is this something that needs to be done today? Is this something that I can do later? Is this something that I need to get someone else to work on? Or is this something that I can just defer? It's just information I'm getting, right? So that's a way that you can organize new information without ruining your existing plans, and capture new information without, well, totally blowing up the plan that you already spent all that time making. Okay, and then the 4th and final insert that I've got to show you are just note-taking inserts, right? How do we capture information, get these ideas out? Just plain note paper is absolutely fine as well. So you may not need all of these inserts at once, like to all be inside your planner, but the purpose of me showing you this is to kind of get you to think creatively about how you are capturing information, raw information and data in your planner so that you can then organize it and act on it, right? We capture, we organize, and we act, right? So how are you capturing information in your planner? These are just some ideas of very common inserts that you can get from my shop that will help you do it, but you could find these solutions elsewhere as well. Next, we'll go ahead and we'll talk about phase two, which is all about defining strategic objectives. And within this phase, there are actually two categories of inserts that I want you to consider adding to your planner in order to fulfill this, phase of the planning process. The first category is your annual vision and goal setting. So that would be something like a vision board and your annual goals, like having them listed out in your planner. And inside of the master planner, we do have a whole page for you to organize your goals, right? So this is a way that you could keep focused on those big picture vision that you're trying to achieve for the year. And then I also give you a place to create a vision board, right? I have some other videos on this on my channel, but I am totally a fan of using vision boards, and I love to have one that is sized for my planner, because if there's any place that my vision really should be, it's inside of my planner. So I do have like a spread within the master planner that's all about, it's dedicated for you to put your vision board on here. So that's the first category, right, of inserts to consider under the defining strategic objectives, right? Actually defining what your goals are, what your vision is for the year that you're trying to go after. Now, the second category of inserts are objective and project management inserts. And so for that, we have inserts like a yearly project matrix, right? Which is something that you can use to see all of your projects laid out across the year and actually assigned to periods of time across the year. So either across months, the quarters of the year, or for the full year, or each half of the year, right? You can actually say, oh, this is something I'm working on in April. This is something I'm going to work on in Q1. This is something that I'm going to work on the second half of the year, right? Actually laying out what your objectives are, right, strategically, so that you keep everything in order and organized. Another way you could choose to see your projects and objectives mapped out is through a tracker, right? If you prefer a list, you can list out the project name, its due date. Has it been planned? Is it in progress? So you've already started completing it, and is it complete, right? So that's another way that you can track your strategic objectives. And then finally, we actually have those strategic action plans. So here's an example of a project plan insert from the master planner, where you're actually able to define the project, what you're trying to achieve, like what outcome you're trying to achieve, the due date, the list of tasks, right, for what you need to do to achieve this outcome and their due dates, any resources you need, and then some notes, right, if you have some other information that you want to corral together with this project plan. So those are the inserts that are related to that second category under the strategic objective phase of functional planning, right, that help you to actually manage objectives and projects, right? So that's what this is all about. And then finally, we get to the third phase of functional planning, which is tracking and allocating your work. So phase one was capture. Phase two was defining the strategic objectives. And phase three is tracking and allocating your work. So we've got capture, organize, and now the tracking and allocating is all about acting, right? Acting on what your plans are, right? So there are three categories of inserts that I want you to consider for this phase. The first are yearly tracking of tasks. So yearly task tracking, or I should say tracking yearly tasks and events. Wow, that was like for some reason a little bit of a tongue twister in my head for a second. But one insert that you may want to consider for this is something like a year at a glance, right? This is something that's going to actually help you to see a big picture of the dates across the year, right? So this is very helpful for tracking yearly things. Then you have an actual yearly tracker, right? This is a tracker that at a glance is going to give you every month and every day of the year. And it's really great for tracking various different information. So a few things that would be really great for you to track here: your weight, a menstrual cycle. You could track billable work hours. You could track holidays or different sorts of work days, either or school days, your family's calendars here for when your partner maybe goes to work, maybe when you work, maybe when your children are off of work, right? Things like that, so that you can kind of see that information, visualize that information in one place, right? So that is the yearly tracker. Then we have the yearly overview, right? Which this is actually on 4 pages. You have a quarter per page. And this gives you the ability to write in a little bit more information for each of the days of the year. So I've seen people use this to track their workouts and like actual like activity. I currently use mine to track astrological information, like in astrological transits that I like to be made aware of. I also have used this as an editorial calendar and a marketing calendar in the past, right? So there's many ways that you could use this, even as a perpetual calendar to put in, birthdays, holidays, things like that. Anywhere you need to be organizing specific types of information and you want to just see like a little reminder for a day, this is a great overview for that, right? So that is the first of the 3 categories under phase 3 of tracking and allocating your work. The second category is monthly planning and tracking, right? So actually creating that monthly calendar, right? So the first insert I have to show you is a month on 2-page insert. This is a great insert to use if you have many different dates that you need to track across the month, right? So you've got lots of birthdays, lots of holidays, lots of events going on, lots of due dates, right? I use this as well for my editorial calendar. I use this to map out marketing plans, right? Because the boxes are big enough for me to write a little bit of information in there so I can capture like multiple different activities a day that I need to be aware of for the big picture scheduling of my calendar each month. An alternate view, if you are someone who doesn't have as many dates or items to track across the month, is a month on 1 page, right? Like a truncated view of this monthly calendar. So you do still have areas where you could write in, if you have small handwriting, you could write things in, or a way that I've used this in the past is using little stickers or little dots in order to indicate different reoccurring tasks. And you could also do something that I like to do is sometimes I will like highlight an actual date on the calendar. And then what you can do is you do have this area down here where you could actually like say like, okay, let's say Thursday, January 5th. I could say January 5th, somebody's birthday, right? It could be somebody's birthday. And that's a way that you can kind of see things visually and then see what they're corresponding to down below, okay? Next thing that you want to consider for your monthly planning is a monthly task list. So this is something that I get asked about a lot. My master monthly task list. What are they? How many do you have to have? And what goes on here? So I believe that when it comes to keeping task lists, you do not want to keep a list of every single solitary thing that you can think of that you have to do. We wrote all those things down on the brain dump, right? We have all the things out of our head. But we want to stay focused on 1 month of activities at a time. So I like to make a smaller to-do list, right, for my month so that I have one place where all my monthly tasks are corralled, right? And so I will recommend that you have one of these for every month of the year. So you need 12 of these, right? One for every month. And on here, what you're going to do is you're going to take all of the action items, all of the tasks from your project plans that you've mapped out, right? So perhaps you have, let me go ahead and I'm just going to give you guys a visual. So let's say for January, let's say you mapped out a project that you are going to be doing in January and you've listed it out here and you created a project plan, right, for something you're doing in January. You're going to take those items, right, and put them on the master task list, right? Because this is something that you're trying to get done. So any project related tasks across multiple different projects, right, should be corralled and organized here, right? You also want to put on here any one-off tasks that you know are just things that you have to do for life that are due in the month, right? So it could be monthly reoccurring things that you work on. I have very many things for my business that I do on a monthly basis. I list them out and track them here. They could be like one-off items like scheduling doctor's appointments or going to get a vehicle registered or, having some sort of home inspection or something like that, right? Whatever you have to get done in the month, I recommend you have one master list to look at that with. And that's what the master monthly task list is all about. Likewise, another way you could be organizing this information is with a monthly objective breakdown, right? So on this page, it gives you enough space to list out your 3 objectives for the month, because one of the ways that I recommend to functionally plan, right, that you could get more information on here for sure in the book, is by limiting the number of, projects that you're actually focusing on. So you can set up to 3 objectives, 3 projects essentially that you are trying to work on in a given month. And so you can list those out, list the major tasks. It may not be the full project plan, right? Maybe you have another page with the full project plan, but maybe you'll list out some of the most key items that you want to do, right, on this tracker. And then you're able to organize other tasks as well. So perhaps there are some tasks that you have to do that are something you do once or just a few times a week. You can list those out and check off as you get them done across the weeks of the month. And then you may have some tasks that are due every single day, or habits that you're working on every single day or many days throughout the week. And so you've got this whole master little habit tracker down here, right? So you have a full habit tracker for the entire month at a glance, right? So these inserts are going to help you to create that monthly view of everything that you're focused on right now. Instead of having to look at the full year of everything you could possibly be doing for the year, we're getting granular. We're looking at 1 month at a time, and these inserts will help you to do that. So that is the second category that falls under the third phase of functional planning, which is about tracking and allocating your work. So the third and final category in this phase is your daily schedule and task management. So this is what we're talking about, your daily or weekly inserts that you would be using that actually help you to map out all of those plans that you have aggregated for the month. And so the first type of insert I want to show you is a week on one page. A week on one page insert is great if you're someone who just has a few weekly scheduled items and tasks. So you don't have a particularly busy life with like a lot of things that you need to manage, right? So you're able to have like a nice size task list. You're able to track those objectives that you're working on for the week, like which ones that are assigned for the month are you actually looking to accomplish this week and work on this week. And then you have an area for your top 3 tasks every day, which is another one of the philosophies that I use or strategies that I recommend you use in order to get focused for your day, to get things done, to have top 3 tasks that you need to accomplish in a day. And then a little reminder section here. So that is the first type of insert you may want to use, or first style of insert that you may want to use, a week on one page. The second style to help you to actually schedule your days is a week on 2 pages, and this is my vertical style. In this style, you have an area for top 3 every day, again, in line with that very important productivity principle, but you also have a lined section in the center for all of the days of the week, where you could actually create either a makeshift schedule where you could write down hours and create a schedule for yourself, or you can use this area for additional tasks. So maybe make some task boxes and make a full task list for the day. Or you could put notes in here as well, like just track some information in notes. Or you could do a combination of all 3 of those things in here, however you please. Then at the end of each day, including the weekends, you have an open box where you can organize additional information that may be pertinent to the day or may even be categorical information that you need to track for all week. So maybe you'll put a little habit tracker in one box. Maybe you'll write all of your meals in another box, right? So like just an area for you to break out more information that might pertain to the entire week or to a specific day. That is week on 2 pages vertical. Another view you have, okay, for organizing your daily schedule is a week on 2 pages horizontal. This is actually the insert that I use, right? Because it gives me a nice big dashboard for organizing my tasks. And then the second page is really great for me to do my top 3 and to keep any scheduled items as well. So here you've got an area for your weekly objectives. Again, breaking those out. What are we focused on this week that's going to help me accomplish all of the things that I said I wanted to do this month. A nice area for reminders. 2 task lists, one for business, or you could use it for work, and one for personal, so that we're keeping both of those areas of our life in view. And then a habit tracker down here at the bottom for any reoccurring daily tasks. And then on the second page, this is really good for scheduling and actually breaking out what am I doing or what do I need to do or what is due every single day. So you have an area for your top 3 and then like an open part of the box where you could I write in like holidays, events, if I had an appointment scheduled or something like that, a social media post that needs to go out, right? I will keep track of that information on that open area, right? So that is just another view for you to see your whole week. And then a final view that I want to show you is a day on one page. So this is optimal for someone who has a very busy life, right? You have a lot of scheduled items throughout your day, so you need a schedule, and you have a lot of tasks that you have to manage as well, right? So it gives you an area for your top 3 daily tasks, an area for today, right? Which you can use any way you want. Talk about your meals in there, talk about maybe a goal that you've got in there. You can track the weather in there. Maybe it's a birthday or an event you need to be aware of, right? Then you have your schedule and a full task list, a little reminder section here, something else that you may need to remember, perhaps for another day, or perhaps this is a little note for yourself, and then a little area for gratitude, right? This is just a really great insert that you could use really to track a lot of information day to day. And one of the things that I absolutely love and recommend, especially to people who do purchase the master planner, is there's nothing stopping you, right, from using a daily page with a weekly page, right? So let's say that you're someone who likes to see your weekly view like this, right? You like the vertical, but you also know that you need a daily page as well, right? And this is one of the beauties of using a customizable planner. You see, I just pulled an insert from one section and I put it here. So I could actually have a full list for what my plan is for a full week. And then I could add to the center of the week. This is generally how I organize it if I was doing this, because I've done this many times before. I can supplement my week with daily pages, right? And I can just put all those daily pages inside of the week. So the week is all contained. So I've got my full week schedule and everything that's happening throughout the days, right? So that's another way that you can be organizing information, right, with your planner. And this is all about understanding how your brain tracks and allocates work visually and how that is interpreted through your actual inserts that you're using, right? That's always what we want to do here in this phase of functional planning, right? It's all about how do you need to see information, how much information do you have to see, and the different types of information, whether it's schedules or tasks, right? So that is the third and final category of the third phase of functional planning, right? So those are the basic inserts for you to consider using for a functional planner setup. And those inserts can be used in essentially any work or life situation that you have. Whether you're a student, you're someone who has a job, perhaps you run a business, or you manage a home full time, or even if you're retired, right? All of these inserts are going to keep you organized and on track and will provide a system of accountability for your time and task management. I'm often asked, very often, Alexis, I am a retiree. What style inserts should I be using? Or Alexis, I'm a student. What style inserts should I be using? It's not about the style of insert matching whatever your career is or whatever your life priorities are, right? It's about how do you envision information, and does your planner have all of the inserts that you need to capture, organize, and track and allocate work to actually get things done, right? That's what the important thing is. So I realized what I'm presenting you with today is really a shift in the way a lot of people think about planning, right? Because I'm not talking about finding the perfect planner for you if you are a stay-at-home mom, right? That's not what this is about. This is about how do you capture information in your planner? How do you organize that information into strategic objectives? And how do you actually break that down into tracking and allocating work so that you've got a calendar and agenda inserts, right, that are keeping you on track and you're able to see everything that you've got going on for the month, right? So this is a fundamental shift in the way that you're thinking about planning, right? So that's why I'm doing this training today. This is why it's so important, right? And like I said to you earlier, all of the inserts that I shared with you here are part of the 2023 Master Planner System, which is my print at home planner insert bundle that gives you everything that you need to organize your own custom functional planner, right? But of course, depending on your specific situation, you may want some additional inserts inside of your planner to organize other information that may be more specific to your life. And if you're using a customizable planner, then you have the luxury to add whatever other inserts you may want or need. So I'd like to spend the next section showing you some other insert options for, how you could be organizing additional information to consider adding to your planner if that would be useful to you. Okay, so the first insert that is an additional insert you may want to consider is this address and contacts list insert, right? This contact list insert. This is something that actually is, spoiler alert, part of the Advent calendar for 2022, my productivity Advent calendar. I will leave a link to that Advent calendar below. It's filled with 24 really awesome printed home additional inserts, some of which you're actually going to see as we walk through these examples today. But this is another thing you may want to consider having inside your planner. Additionally, you may want to consider some sort of business planning inserts. If you are not already familiar, I actually have an entire set of business planning inserts called the CEO Strategy Planner, and it is 60 insert designs that are specifically to help you organize business information. Okay, so here are just a few of those inserts, right? Literally a few of the 60 inserts. There's a campaign builder if you're someone who does marketing, content brainstorm, content planner, content tracker. The CEO strategy planner also includes, your executive summary, like your entire business plan, your yearly, quarterly, monthly business plan, strategic objectives for your business, and even financial inserts as well, which is another type of insert that I wanted to show you here. This is just an example of an insert that comes from, it's in both of the CEO strategy planner, and I actually sell a financial planning insert bundle that I will, of course, I'll leave everything I talk about linked below for you to quickly be able to find it. But this is just an example of a financial planning insert you may want to keep inside of your planner as well. More inserts you may want to consider: list making inserts. I believe that this set of inserts actually is something I may have them on the shop, but I think there's something that are in my mastermind as well, my Charmed Life Mastermind, which is my inner circle membership for people who are obsessed with productivity and planning and personal development. Again, I'll leave that link down below if you're interested, but I create a lot of exclusive inserts just for them as well. So I think that's in there as well. I also have a meal planner bundle, right? So if you're someone who wants to organize their meal planning and meal prep, I have inserts for that. This is just one insert from that bundle. Meeting notes, right? So if you're someone who has a lot of meetings that you take and you need to organize that information, a meeting notes insert is going to be useful for that. Mindset inserts. I think this comes from a set from the mastermind as well, just for helping you to shift your mindset. I also have journaling inserts, and this is a mindset journaling insert, right? That is part of the Advent calendar as well. Just an example of daily mindset work you could be using and, putting that in your planner as well. I also have like a blank journaling insert. This is like a squared journaling insert. And something else that's in the shop are these tarot reading journaling inserts. So if you're someone who likes to use tarot to tap into your intuition, and you like to journal on, the cards that you pull for, future reference, right? And to, really write down what your interpretations are. I have a whole set of tarot reading journaling inserts as well in the shop. Then we've got this password tracker, right? So a password log is another insert that is very helpful to have in your planner. And this again comes from the Advent calendar, the Productivity Advent calendar as well. Additional task lists. I believe this is something that was given to the mastermind as well. This is a 2022 dated, but additional task lists where you may be tracking specific types of information. Something like this could be like if you have specific tasks for your children that you want to keep track of, or any other information, having additional kind of views on your task list can be very helpful. And then something like this workflow tracker, I absolutely love this insert. It's really great if you do a lot of work that has repetitive steps. So you could write down the actual task that you're doing and then the different steps that kind of go through that process, so that you can track where you are with each of your items. This would have been very helpful for me when I worked my 9-to-5 job and I did a lot of contract processing, and there were a lot of steps for the things that I had to do in order to process the contracts and put them into systems and, make sure that they were, organized for quick reference. So this is a workflow tracker. I will link that below for you as well. So additional information that you may want to consider keeping in your planner as well, just some ideas that I want to share with you. You may want to consider any activity calendars, things that are for maybe local activities or, school sports, or maybe a hobby that you are engaged with, right? Any activity calendars, you may want to consider using that information, putting them on specific inserts so that you're able to track that information. So it's not something you have to be referencing some other calendar always. You've got that information already in your planner. Similarly, like a community calendar, if you have a local community group or something that you're doing and they have scheduled events, you may want to think about adding that information to your planner as well for reference. Any commonly referenced information that you have really should be taken and, transposed into your planner as well, like anything that you're constantly referencing. So a really good example of that for me is I told you earlier that on that yearly overview, I like to track the astrological transits. because I was always going and like looking at like a website that had that information. So instead of always constantly having to check the website, I just sat down at the beginning of the year and I used that insert to actually track all of the transits that I'm interested in keeping track of. So that is a way that I keep commonly referenced information into my planner as well. You may want to also consider adding information for school calendars and work calendars for yourself, your partner, for your children, whoever you have to have eyes on, right? You want to have that information somewhere so that you do not miss it. Again, having all of this information in one place in your planner means you don't have to keep looking all the different places for what could possibly be popping up. You already have that information inside of your planner. You've already populated it, right? Or you have something that's actually tracking that information in your planner so you can quickly reference it whenever you're making plans, right? Now, I realize that I just gave you a lot of inserts to consider adding to your planner, and you might be wondering now, how the heck do you fit all of this in one binder, Alexis? Well, the short answer for me is that I don't. When it comes to my personal planner setup, I keep the big picture planning inserts for my goals and my visions and my projects broken out, but I only keep a quarter at a time of my calendar and agenda inserts. So that way, my planner is always focused on the next 90 days or the current 90-day cycle that we're in and what I'm working towards in that period of time, instead of everything I could possibly be doing for the entire year, which can be incredibly overwhelming and distracting. So this helps me to fit more of the different variety of inserts that I like to use right into my planner so that I can get all of the function that I want and need. And then after I'm done with, a quarter's worth of calendar inserts, I can remove those and put them into a spare binder for future reference and replace them with the current quarter that we are in. So that's how I manage all of the inserts into one binder. So the final question that we're asked that we're going to cover in this training is, how should I organize my planner tabs and sections? Okay, so when it comes to organizing all of this information in your planner in a particular order, I think it's important to remember that the purpose of your tabs and sections is simply to make adding and finding information as quick as possible. That's why we have things broken into sections. That's why we use tabs or dividers, right? So we can quickly add and find information that we're looking for, right? So truthfully, you can order your planner any way and in any sections that you desire, if it makes sense to you and the order works for the way that your brain organizes information, right? So as long as you can always find information in your planner when you're looking for it, I say do what works for you. Now, for myself personally, I organize my sections of my planner in accordance with the 3 phases of functional planning that we outlined earlier, except I order the sections kind of in reverse. So when you first open my planner, the first phase, the first section that you're seeing is actually the 3rd phase of functional planning, which is the tracking and allocating of work. So you have my yearly calendars, my monthly calendars, and my agendas for the days and weeks in the first section. And then I have the 2nd phase, which is the defining strategic objectives. So all of my project plans and project management. And then the final section in order is the first section, which is that capture phase, where I've got brain dump, brainstorm, notes, things like that. And then once you get past all of those inserts, right, I also organize additional inserts after that. So I have all of my business planning inserts for my CEO strategy planner. I've got mindset work. All of that stuff is organized in their own sections in the back of the planner, right? So if you aren't sure which sections to even use in your planner, right? Or what you may want to be calling each of your sections on your dividers or your tabs, right? I have a couple of ideas to help you to consider, right? So by no means does everyone need to use all of these sections at once. This is simply a list that I want to share with you to help you decide what you may want to use if you're not sure, right? And of course, they're going to be on the screen right now for you, and I'll just read them off. Think about calendar, January, February, March, April, May, June, all of the months of the year. Then projects, brain dump, brainstorm, notes, journal, manifest, mindset, goals, CEO, business plan, quarterly plan, monthly plan, objectives, marketing, finance, contacts, inbox, outbox, agenda, lists, inspiration, reference, Q1 through 4, the quarters of the year, and miscellaneous. I mean, you could even name your sections, capture, objectives, and track, right? Like tracking, right? So you could name them any way you want. You could name them in accordance with the functional planning phases that they belong to as well, right? So this is really up to you how you want to be organizing your planner, but I want it to work with what comes to mind for you, like what seems logical for you, because that means you're more likely to use those sections right, and you're going to be able to find information quicker because you're doing what works for your brain, right? As opposed to following some arbitrary rule I've set for you. Okay? So with that, we have come to the end of our training today. So this is my complete strategy for setting up your functional planner system for the new year. And I know I just gave you a lot of information to consider, and I know that you likely got many questions answered during the training, but if you do have any lingering questions, please leave me a comment down below or feel free to email me. I will leave my email address up on screen if you'd like to send me a message directly. So feel free to review this training information as much as you want. It is free. It is here for you to review over and over. Feel free to share it with anyone you think would find it helpful. And I want to give you a little bit of a gift for actually taking the time to make it all the way to the end of this training. If you would like to get 20% off any planning inserts in my shop, I want you to use the code FUNCTIONAL2023 PLAN. It's going to be flashing up on screen right now. If you use that coupon code, you will be able to get 20% off any of my planning inserts in my shop. It's not for everything in my shop, but it will cover the planning inserts. So like I said, I will leave down in this description everything that I mentioned, links to everything that I mentioned where you can find those things so that you can quickly access them and make your purchase, use the discount code, get your downloads, print them out at home, and start setting up your functional planner for 2023. So I sincerely hope that this training has been valuable to you. Please let me know about it. Feel free to send me a DM on Instagram and let me know what you think. Make sure you're following me on Instagram for more behind the scenes of my productivity life and business. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you did find it helpful. And if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button for more awesome videos by me. And until next time, bye-bye.